Hi, I'm Sean Gannon, and this is Minute Math, and today we're learning about powers of products and quotients. Simplify, and your answer should contain only positive exponents. So, if I was given this problem.
Minute Math, when you need help you use Minute Math.
3a squared all to the third power. Okay. Well, when we take this third power over the whole parenthesis, okay, it's like taking what's on the inside and multiplying it 3 times, okay? The same thing 3 times, not by 3. So when we distribute this third power, we distribute it to the exponents, okay? So the exponent right here for 3 is really 3 to the first power. So when we do that, distribute it in there, because these are separated by multiplication, we have 3 to the 1 times 3 power times a to the 2 times 3 power. Okay? Well, now we can simplify. Well, 3 to the 1 times 3 power is 3 to the third power, right? Same thing, 1 times 3 is 3. And 3 to the third power is 27. A comes down, and 2 times 3 is 6, a to the 6th. And so our final answer is 27a to the 6th power. 2n to the 4th power, all to the 4th power. When we take everything inside the parenthesis and we're raising it to the 4th power, okay, we're going to take what's inside the parenthesis and it's being multiplied by itself 4 times, okay? And to simplify this, we distribute this exponent to both parts into the parentheses. Remember, this 2 times n to the 4th power is what's going on there. The 2 also is raised to the first power. So when we distribute the exponents inside the problem here, inside the parenthesis, it becomes 2 to the 1 times 4 power times n to the 4 times 4 power. Okay? Well, pretty easy now at this point once you get that first step done. 1 times 4 is 4, and 2 to the 4th power is 16. N comes down, and 4 times 4 is also 16, giving me my final answer, 16n to the 16th power. 3x to the 4th power, all raised to the 4th power. Okay? Well, when we have something in the parentheses to the 4th power, we can distribute that exponent to the inside. Now, our two terms, 3 and x to the 4th power, well, they're separated, well, not really two terms, but separated by multiplication going on there. So the 4 gets to the 3, and remember that 3 is actually 3 to the 1st power. We distribute the 4 to both parts. Okay? So what this breaks down to be is 3 to the 1 times 4 power times x to the 4 times 4 power. We multiply the exponents here. Well, 1 times 4 is 4, and 3 to the 4th power is 81. X comes down, and 4 times 4 is 16. And so my final answer is 81x to the 16th power. 6b squared, all raised to the 2nd power. Well, 6b squared is 6 times b squared, and 6 right here is really 6 to the 1st power. When we raise everything here to the exponent, right, squared, we can distribute that exponent to the exponents on the inside. And when we do that, we're multiplying them. So this simplifies to be 6 to the 1 times 2 power times b to the 2 times 2 power. Then from there, okay, we just keep simplifying. Well, 2 times 1 is 2, right? And 6 squared is 36. 2 times 2 is 4, so we have b to the 4th power, and our final answer is 36b to the 4th power. 7y to the 4th power squared. Okay? Well, 7 is really 7 to the 1st power, and between 7 and the y, that's multiplication going on. To distribute this squared power up there, outside the parentheses, we do so by multiplying 2 to each one of these exponents. So 7 to the first power is 7 now to the 1 times 2 power. And the y here, instead of y to the fourth, is 4 times 2 in the exponent. Now let's simplify. 1 times 2 is 2, and 7 squared is 49. 4 times 2 is 8. Y comes down, so we have y to the 8th power. And our final answer now is 49y to the 8th power. 3a b to the 4th power, all raised to the 4th power. Well, we know this 3 is really 3 to the 1st power, and between the 3 and a, that's multiplication. A is also raised to the 1st power, and between a and b is also multiplication. When we raise everything here in the parenthesis to the 4th power, to simplify this, we distribute this exponent to all the exponents on the inside. And that 4 gets multiplied to each of the exponents. So what we can see here is 3 to the 1 times 4 power times a to the 1 times 4 power times b to the 4 times 4 power. So let's simplify. 1 times 4 is 4, and 3 to the 4th power is 81. A comes down, and well, it's 1 times 4, and so that's 4. It's just a to the 4th power. And b, lastly here, we have 4 times 4, which is 16. So we have b to the 16th power. And so my final answer is 81, a to the 4th power, b to the 16th power. 2, x to the 4th power, y to the 4th power, all raised to the 3rd power. Okay? Well, we know each one here, 2 and the x, between there is multiplication. And between the x to the 4th and y to the 4th is also multiplication. 2 is also raised to the 1st power. Well, when we multiply all this in parentheses to the 3rd power, all right, we take that 3rd power and it gets distributed to all the exponents with multiplication. So 2 to the 1st power becomes 2 to the 1 power times 3 times x now to the 4 times 3 power times y to the 4 times 3 power as well. 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 to the 3rd power is 8. X comes down, 4 times 3 is 12, so we have x to the 12th power, and the same thing with the y. 4 times 3 is 12, and so my final answer is 8x to the 12th power, y to the 12th power. 5 m n to the 3rd power times, or all to the 3rd power, excuse me. Well, 5 we know is really raised to the 1st power. Multiplication between the 5 and m is also raised to the 1st power. Multiplication again between m and n to the 3rd power. To simplify this, since everything in parentheses is raised to the 3rd power, we take this 3rd power and it gets distributed to the exponents of the values inside the parentheses. So 5 now becomes 5 to the 1 times 3 power. M now becomes to the power of 1 times 3. And n is to the power of 3 times 3. Well, now we can simplify. 1 times 3 is 3, and 5 to the 3rd power is 125. 1 times 3 is also 3 again, and so we have m to the 3rd power. And lastly, 3 times 3 is 9, so we have n to the 9th power, giving us our final answer of 125 m to the 3rd power, n to the 9th power. X squared, y squared, all raised to the 2nd power. We know the x squared and y squared are separated by multiplication. To distribute this exponent, we multiply that to the exponents within each term inside of the parenthesis, or each part of the parenthesis. So now x squared becomes x to the 2 times 2 power, and y squared becomes y to the power of 2 times 2. We now simplify. 2 times 2 is 4, so we have x to the 4th, and same thing, y to the 4th, giving us our final answer, x to the 4th, y to the 4th. 6y x to the 4th power, and all of that is raised to the 2nd power. Alright, well, we know that 6 and y are separated by multiplication, and 6 is really raised to the 1st power. Y and x to the 4th are also separated by multiplication, and y is also raised to the 1st power. When we distribute this and simplify, we take the exponent squared, and it gets multiplied to each exponent inside of the parenthesis. So 6 to the 1st becomes 6 to the 1 times 2 power, times y to the 1st power becomes y to the 1 times 2 power, and x to the 4th is x to the 4 times 2 power. Now we simplify. 1 times 2 is 2, and 6 squared is 36. Again, 1 times 2 is 2, and we now have y squared. 4 times 2 is 8, so we have x to the 8th power, giving us our final answer, 36y squared x to the 8th power. U to the 4th power times v to the 3rd power, and all this is raised to the 2nd power. Alright? Well, we know u to the 4th and v to the 3rd are separated by multiplication. To distribute this and simplify, we take the exponent on the outside of the parenthesis, power of 2, and multiply it to each exponent inside of the parenthesis. So we now have u to the 4 times 2 power times v to the 3 times 2 power. So now let's simplify. 4 times 2 is 8, so we have u to the 8th power, and then 3 times 2 is 6, giving us our final answer, u to the 8th times v to the 6th power. 2 x to the 4th power, y to the 4th power, and all of that is raised, you can guess it, to the 4th power. Well, we know 2 is really 2 to the 1st power, and between 2 and the x to the 4th is multiplication. Between x to the 4th and y to the 4th is also multiplication. To simplify this, inside of a parentheses, we take from the outside the 4th power and multiply, distribute it to all parts, all exponents inside the parentheses. So 2 to the 1st is 2 to the 1 times 4 power times x to the 4th power becomes x to the 4 times 4 power. And same thing with the y. It becomes y to the 4 times 4th power. Big multiplication point right there. So now let's simplify. Pretty easy now. 1 times 4 is 4, and 2 to the 4th power is 16. 4 times 4 again is 16, or not again, but is 16. So we have x to the 16th power now. And lastly, 4 times 4 again now is y to the 16th power, giving us 16 x to the 16th power times y to the 16th power. 3x squared times 2x squared, and all of that is raised to the 2nd power. Well, in our parentheses, I actually see some like terms, so I can simplify within the parentheses, and I like to do that first. Okay, so we look at the coefficients. We have the 3 and the 2, and we can multiply them together first. 3 times 2 is 6. And we have the x's now. We have x squared times x squared. When we're multiplying variables with the same base, we add the exponents. 2 plus 2 is 4. So we have x to the 4th power here, and it's all raised to the 2nd power. So now let's keep going. Between 6 and x to the 4th is multiplication, and 6 is raised to the 1st power, right? When it's not written, 1st power. To distribute this squared, we multiply that to each exponent. So we have 6 to the 1 times 2 power times x to the 4 times 2 power. Well, 1 times 2 is 2, and 6 squared is 36. 4 times 2 is 8, and we have x to the 8th power, giving us our final answer, 36x to the 8th power. 2p p to the third power times 2p. All of that's going to be raised to the second power. Okay? Well, since we have like terms inside the parenthesis, we can multiply and simplify it. So I like to condense that first. Okay? Look at the coefficients. 2 times 2 is 4. Multiply them together. P to the third power times p, and remember, this p is to the first power. Multiply variables with the same base, we add the exponents. 3 plus 1 is 4. So we have p to the fourth power. Now don't forget, we still raise that all to the second power here. Now let's keep simplifying. Multiplication between 4 and then p to the fourth power. 4 is really raised to the first power. And now to simplify this, we distribute this exponent of 2 to each of the exponents inside. And it's made with multiplication. So now we have 4 to the 1 times 2 power times p to the 4 times 2 power. Well, 1 times 2 is 2. That's easy. And 4 to the second power is 16. 4 times 2 is 8. And so p is now to the 8th power, giving us our final answer, 16p to the 8th power. 4 n to the third power times n squared, all raised to the second power. Well, I want to simplify within the parenthesis first, if I can. There's no, or the coefficient in front of n squared is really a 1, and 4 times 1 is just 4, right? But now we have n to the third times n squared. When we multiply with the same variables with the same base, we add the exponents. 3 plus 2 is 5. So we have n to the fifth power here. Don't forget, we still have the square, all of that. Bring that down. Okay? Well, 4 is really 4 to the first power. Multiplication separates the 4 and the n to the fifth. And so now when we distribute this exponent of 2, it gets multiplied to each exponent on the inside. So we have 4 to the 1 times 2 power times n to the 5 times 2 power. Well, 1 times 2 is 2, and 4 squared is 16. 5 times 2 is 10, and so we have n to the 10th power, giving us our final answer, 16n to the 10th power. 3x times 2x. And all of that is going to be raised to the second power. Okay? Well, look at the coefficients. We first can simplify within the parenthesis, so I'm going to take the 3 and the 2, the coefficients, and multiply them together first. 3 times 2, 6. Now the variables. Well, x is really x to the first power, and here we have x to the first power as well. When we multiply variables, we add the exponents if the variables are the same, and 1 plus 1 is 2. Really, x times x is x squared. You should know that. And we have an x squared here. But we're not done. Be careful. We still have to raise all of that to the second power. 6 here is really 6 to the first power. We got multiplication between 6 and x squared. To distribute the exponent, that second power, we multiply that to each exponent. So now we have 6 to the 1 times 2 power times x to the 2 times 2 power. Okay? Well, 1 times 2 is 2, and 6 squared is 36. 2 times 2 is 4, and so we have x to the fourth power, giving us our final answer, 36x to the fourth power. 4x to the fourth power times x to the fourth power, all raised to the third power. Okay? Well, the coefficient in front of x to the fourth power is really just a 1, so we know that there. And we want to simplify what's inside the parenthesis. 4 times that 1, to deal with the coefficients first, is 4. I almost said 1. So now we have the variables, x to the fourth times x to the fourth. They are the same base of x's, and they're being multiplied. That means we add the exponents. 4 plus 4 is 8. Oh, 8 for x. Whoops. I forgot to put the variable x there. Hey, we all make mistakes. It's okay. X to the 8th power. All right? Don't forget, though, to raise it all to the third power, right? Well, 4 is really 4 to the first power, not the 8th power, and 4 and x are being separated by multiplication. To simplify this, we take the exponent of 3 and we distribute it to both parts within the parenthesis, both exponents. So now we have 4 to the 1 times 3 power times x to the 8 times 3 power. So let's simplify. 1 times 3 is 3, and 4 to the 3rd power is 64. Okay? 8 times 3 is 24, so we have x here to the 24th power, giving us our final answer, 64x to the 24th power. 4 n to the 4th power times n, all of that is raised to the 2nd power. Okay? Well, 4, right there, as the coefficient for n to the 4th, and there's a 1 that's right there in front of n. We want to simplify within the parenthesis first. Coefficients being multiplied, 4 times 1 is 4. All right? Now n to the 4th power. We're going to multiply that by this n, and really that n is to the 1st power. When we multiply variables with the same base, which we have, we add the exponents. So 4 plus 1 is 5, and so we have 5, or n to the 5th power. Don't forget to bring down the exponent overall squared. Well, 4 and n to the 5th are separated by multiplication, and 4 is really 4 to the 1st power. To distribute the squared, we multiply it to each exponent inside the parentheses. So we have 2 times 1 and 2 times 5. Okay? So 4 to the 1 times 2 power times n to the 5 times 2 power. So let's simplify. 1 times 2 is 2, and 4 squared is 16. All right? 5 times 2 is 10, and n now is to the 10th power, giving us our final answer, 16n to the 10th power.
Minute Math. When you need help, you use Minute Math. Minute Math. Minute Math. When you need help, you use Minute Math. MinuteMathTutor.com.